Are we good?
We are good.
Is Finney in the video? Because I don't want him in there.
Finney's not in the video.
Perfect. All right. So, guys, I'm creating this video to teach you guys about what you're going to talk to these students about as far as how truss systems go. To begin, I always like to start with who knows what a truss is. Now you ask the audience members to answer that question.
Hey Casey, what is a truss?
Do you know what a truss is?
I do not know what a truss is.
Finney,
I
do
know
you
what a truss is.
What is a truss system?
A truss system is a mechanical formation, right, which uses principles of compression and tensile strength and uses it to create lightweight but strong material.
Okay, that's one way to say it. Anybody else? So, right, you ask the students if they know what it is, right? Fine, they'll give you a couple answers. Then after that, you could talk about where you see trusses. So in the environment, where do you see a truss?
Bridges.
Bridges, that's an easy one.
Bird bones.
Bird bones, that's true. They have them in there too. Cranes, right? When you look at a crane downtown that's building a building, got all those triangular structures in there, that is a truss system, right? You also see them in internal structures within buildings themselves, okay? So truss systems are everywhere. Again, like Finney said, they are lightweight systems. They rely on the principles of tension and compression, right? Tension is the desire for something to want to pull. Compression is the desire for something to want to press together with a certain amount of force, okay? So the system that we are making today, or that has already been made for you, that you're going to discuss with these students, is this thing. Now, how this relates to space, because that's what this entire activity is about, is that this system is a very simple representation of what NASA uses to uncoil solar panels and different types of structures when the structures get into space themselves. All right. This system uses these things called batten tubes, which are these short tubes here. And then they use Longeron tubes, which are these long tubes here, in a system of diagonals, which are made of kite string. All right. This system alone takes about 25 to 30 minutes to make, but it is very strong, right? So at NASA, they use a system that's a lot like this, but it's able to compress and be about this size. And when it gets into outer space, they uncoil it, and it turns into a very rigid system that is over 130 meters long, right? So something that weighs, I don't know, I think it was 60 pounds, and it can compress into 17 inches or so. It can uncoil and turn into something that is 130 meters long. This system here is made from paper, right? These tubes are made from paper. You've got tape that holds the paper tubes together, and you've got these corner pieces that are made from paper also, and this kite string that is in the center, okay? So this system by itself weighs 18 grams, which is pretty much nothing. Super lightweight materials. The reason that, let's see here, most truss systems that you see are made from, or use triangles to form the structure itself. Triangles resist change to forces a lot better than squares do, which is an interesting thing. Whenever you press onto a triangle like this, if the triangle is connected by everything, these two pieces here are placed into compression and this one is placed into tension, right? That system alone makes the system very stable and rigid. You can't really see that with this demonstration here, but you can tell your students that when you're working on this system. Quick demonstration of how this thing works. Again, it weighs 18 grams, right? So one of the things you can do is ask your students if they think it will support this 1 pound book, right? 18 pounds, 1 pound, or 18 grams versus 1 pound. We'll see what it says. So yes, holds 1 book, think it'll hold 2 books, right? And you continue to stack books on this thing in an even fashion until you run out of books, right? Or any other sort of heavy material. Now, I also have this 4.5 pound jug of Tang that we're going to use and place on here too. And it's very important that you stack the Tang directly above these Longeron tubes like this, you don't want to have any sort of off-balance system, because if you do, the whole system will fall apart. So currently, this is holding about 6 pounds of weight, which is well over 100 times the weight of the actual Longeron truss system itself. And just to be fun, I have my personal laptop here just to show you that it can also hold another 4 pounds. So now you have almost 10 pounds of weight on something that only weighs 18 grams.
Probably more than
I don't know. So that's that. That's just a demonstration that you can do with the students. At this point, I would pass this system around and let students tell you about this system itself. And then we would discuss different ways that truss systems can be used in the everyday world. And these systems, let's see here, these strings are placed in here to hold all of this material together itself, right? So these strings are here to press these batten tubes into compression, right? So the Longeron tubes are being pulled into this batten tube to create it in compression, right? And then, when you place weight on top of it, the batten tubes then become into compression, and the strings that are within the tubes themselves now become in tension. And that also holds the entire system together. If you took these diagonals out, which are these strings here, the whole system would just torque and fall on itself, and you don't want that at all. So there's a delicate balance between tension and compression within truss systems. Typically, when a force is being applied to a system like this, parts are in compression and other parts are in tension, and they end up balancing out and creating a very, very strong structure. How many minutes am I at?
I can't tell.
Should be at the top, very top.
Oh, 7 minutes. There we go.
That's it?
7 minutes, 13 seconds.
Oh, okay.
I mean, does it have to be 15 minutes?
No, it doesn't. But one of the other things that you guys could do is we can provide different weights of things. And you can ask the students if they think that this system will be able to support the weight of whatever. This is, I guess, a half gallon of tea. I think that this truss system will support this half gallon of tea just fine. Ooh, it's a little wobbly, but we would just talk about different things that you could stack onto this truss system here. Now, it's very important that when you are putting things on top of these systems here that you don't put any sort of torque on them, because if you do, the system will want to tend to collapse in on itself. And if that happens, just pull it back out, pull it together, and then just stack things back on top gently. You want to make sure that you have the pieces on here evenly distributed for the most part. So you don't want to have a bunch of weight on one side and not the other, because systems don't like that, as all of you should know. I'm going to kind of go overboard here. Wow, that is very impressive to me. So as you can see here, I mean, this is probably 15 pounds worth of weight that is on top of this little 18-gram structure. So now you can start fielding questions to the students and asking them, what else could you use truss systems for, and where else do you see them? Like I said, in outer space, they use these types of systems a lot because, again, they are lightweight and they are able to collapse in on themselves. So that way, when they're leaving Earth, there's not a lot of drag on the space system itself, because it's a lot smaller, so you don't have any air resistance or anything like that. When you get into outer space, there is no air, typically, so your air resistance is greatly reduced. Let's see here.
Jason,
Yes.
what would happen if you didn't have the strings?
If I didn't have the strings would keep, first of all, if I didn't have the strings, the system would collapse as soon as I put something on there. The strings help keep everything in a tension and compression state. And that's the whole point of them. Right now the strings are in compression, or in tension, because they're pulling the whole system together itself. These things alone, right, like paper is super flimsy, right? it bends in half, right? But if I take this paper and I roll it into a tube, now the paper doesn't want to bend in half, right? Like that, so it won't do that. If you apply enough force to it, it'll bend this way. But if I stand the paper up like this and apply force to it, it doesn't want to bend, right? So these components alone are very weak by themselves. But when you put them together into a truss system, they become extremely strong. And like I said, that was well over 100 times the weight of this system alone. Let's see here. In space, they don't use paper and string, typically, right? They use composite materials like graphite and carbon fiber and things of that nature to do these. The system that they use in space, again, is it's made from graphite tubes and carbon fiber strings, right? But it has the same principles. It operates off of the same principles as this does. And that's what you're kind of trying to get your students to understand, is that you can simulate and model the things that astronaut or aerospace engineers design and throw into space by doing things like this here on Earth. This is relatively cheap. Again, it takes 35 minutes to build one of these, and it can be used for an assortment of things. So, any other questions?
How much weight can the ones in space hold?
I really don't know that answer, but I can look it up, and I'll add that to the video. If I had to take a wild guess, I don't know. Maybe 300 or 400 pounds, potentially, before it breaks. Maybe before you start seeing a lot of deflection or anything like that. But in space, there's no gravity, right? So it doesn't really matter. I mean, it can hold a lot of weight, but I can look into it and see how this system is actually used, and I'll add that to the video itself. In space, the scientists that created these systems and the engineers that created these systems had to use materials that are resistant to changes in temperature, right? So most things, when they get cold, they tend to compress. And when they do, you may leave gaps in between the other parts of the system, right? Or when things tend to heat up, they tend to expand. And in that case, then you'll be having a lot of pressure pressing on different joints and things of that nature. Using graphite and carbon-based things, it has a resistance to change, or it resists the temperature changes for these types of materials. So it can be used in a wide range of temperatures and a wide range of pressures. So that's another thing that you guys should actually mention to your students. And I think that's all I've got for now. If I have more, I'll add it. So what am I at, 10 minutes, hopefully?
13.
Cool, perfect. Turn it off.